So any questions in the previous session? We spoke about data services management consoles administration part. Just give me a second, guys. Alright, so yesterday we completed the administration part and some of the topics were left purposely because we will try to cover them when we are talking about the XML data and real-time jobs. So we will proceed with the next topic, that is auto documentation. So once you log into the data services management console, you'll be able to see this auto documentation, which is nothing but this process creates the auto documentation for the code that you create within your data services designer. So earlier in projects, what we generally do, or the most painful part is, like, we have to go and create the documentation of whatever we have done, which means we have to take the screenshots or copy and paste the documentation and do a write-up for everything, and that used to consume a lot of the project build time or development time, and that's a painful part definitely, because you have to go to each and every segment of the project and then document it and take a screenshot, show the output. But data services does that by the system itself, so there is technically no need for you to do any screenshots or write-ups. The documentation is done by the tool itself. So it views, analyzes, and print graphical representations of all objects as depicted in Data Services Designer, including their relationship, properties, and more. So it's not just only the graphical representation, but it will also give you the clear relationship between the fields, right, to a field level. This thing. Once again, yeah. So go to the settings. If you don't see your repository here, so what you need to do is go to your settings, and this is where we choose the repository. So the name of our repository is rep_lr7 and display image type. So you want just the partial image or the whole image, you can select that one and click on apply, and it will show you a local repository here. So this is a project where we built all the training jobs, and if you go to the job, a little bigger one that we have created, condition scripts and global variable. Alright, so give me a second, I'll try to log in to the designer and see why we don't have the job there. So this job was actually removed from the list, so that is the reason why we are not able to see that. But now, since I added that back to the list, we should be able to see that once we refresh. Or if it is not displayed, you can go to the right, you can see this one here. Now if you click on the job, right, it gave the project level description, but once you expand the project and click on the job, you will see the graphical representation of the job once it refreshes. Right, so it has an initial script, and then it has the first conditional Mara, and in Mara, if the condition is yes, then we have two different data flows and then a script, and if it is no, then it goes to the delta data flow, and then subsequently it goes to the second condition, which is conditional Marcy, and then it goes to the third condition, which is condition join. So it will give you the complete graphical representation of your job. Not only that, but you can click on this one to go and look at the script that you have written in the code. So it is not only just the graphical representation, but it is the interactive screen which will show you what is done. So if you want to go and look at this one, click on the data flow and it will show you a graphical representation within that data flow. So this is the data flow and this is the table. You want to look at the table structure, you can click on the table name. Right, it's taking a few seconds to refresh. So you click on the table name to see the structure, you click on the query transformation to see what is happening within the query transformation, which means you can also do a quick analysis on the code from this auto documentation. Right, if you don't have an access to the local repository, still you want to go and look at the code, you can do that. And also it lists down the variables, type of the variables that we created, and the second tab, if you go and look at it, it will tell you the tables used and used as source or used as target. Or if you are trying to use a particular table as initially as a target and then it has a source, it will tell you this table is used as both source and target. So once you click at a job level, generally we do the auto documentation at a job level but not the project level. So click on the job, and once the graphical representation is displayed, now you can click on this print icon which is right next to your job name. Click on it and it will open a small window which will allow you the checkboxes, like if you want to keep all of them you can keep, or you can just uncheck the things that you don't want. And the output format, you want a PDF or a Word document. So generally we create some PDFs when we don't have any logos to be added to the document, but if in case we want to provide this document to the customer with their logo on it, then you can create it as a Word document and add the logos and then convert that into a PDF. Right, I'm just creating that as a PDF right now. So click on print by selecting the option PDF and it will open the documentation. So it is getting downloaded. Now once it is done, you can open this one. Right, this is the document that the auto documentation it is generated. So it is an ETL documentation and name of the job is given there. Then the graphical representation of the job. And this document is not interactive, but it will take to the sub screenshots, like these are the variables used, these are the tables used, and from which data store we are pulling that table and you are using it as a source or as a target. Then what is happening in the first data flow, then the object properties, then how the source table is mapped to the target table. Right, so this is what we see here. So this is the data store, target data store, and the table name and the field name, and this is the source data store and the field name, and it gives you the description of those one. So it gives you a field level mapping, like how each and every field of your source is mapped to each and every field of your target. So you can look at each and every field that you added and how it is related to the next table. So for a data flow, per data flow level, you will see this documentation given in detail. So instead of taking a screenshot, and though you take a screenshot, you have to go and technically write how these fields are related from left hand side to right hand side. But this documentation, it provides you a clear picture, like how these are joined and what is the name of the field and what is its description. Right, everything is maintained here. So this is one beautiful auto documentation that we can generate and send it to the customers, or keep it as a backup for your project code. So this supports your documentation purpose. So this is our auto documentation where we can go If you want to do an analysis, go to the auto documentation and do an analysis on the code. You can read through the lines. And if you want to create a document, then click on the print script. Right. So that will create a Word or a PDF document. So click back on the home page. The next one is data validation. So once your project is done, or once your job building is done and you loaded the data into the target, now you will you will evaluate the reliability of your target data based on the validation rules that you used in your job. So let us say in your job you use some validation rules to validate your data, and once it is done and data is loaded, now you are cross-checking the target system's data with the rules that are done on the data services designer. So evaluates the reliability of your target data based on the validation rules you created in data services designer's batch job to quickly review, assess, and identify the potential inconsistency or error in the source data. So it is a reverse engineering that you will be doing to dig down from target, put the rules on the data, and evaluate how good your source data looks. Generally, you will not do that process. Alright, it says no data. Whether auto documentation is maintained, the version management of the jobs. No, Satya. Auto documentation, whatever the latest version in your local repository, if you click on the job and do that, so it will create a document only for that version that is present in your local repository. It is not for the version management of jobs. Alright, so click on the settings and then go and select your repository. And once you are done selecting your repository, just click on apply. Just don't click on OK, just click on apply. Then go to the functional area and create a functional area. Save this. And once your functional area is saved, sorry. So it should actually display all the jobs where we have done some validations. Let me go and cross check why it is not displaying in the repository. Let me just refer to the other repository. Save it. Alright, technically speaking, it should display the jobs and their system configurations so that you can select the job and move it to the associated batch jobs. And once it is done, you click on apply and then go to the validation rule, and you can add the validation rule here. It used to work on the other systems, but I'm not really sure like why it is not showing up here. Click on apply and then go to the functional area, name the functional area. Alright, and once you give the functional area name and click on save it, alright, so it will give you the list of jobs which have the validation in that, so you can associate those jobs and then can save and click on apply and OK and go to the rules tab and you will see the validation rules. You can set a priority to that. So once you click on save, you will see the validation rules. You can select that, push it to the target, and once you click on apply and then click on OK, it will show you a report, right? A statistical report which shows how your data looks, right? So it shall say passed, failed, but we don't have the data displayed here. Right? If you want to click at the view history, you can look at the past executions here. Right. So this is about your validation. Generally, we will not do that process where you have to validate your target data based on the rules and then you will evaluate how your source data looks. But there is an option just in case if you want to do that, you can do that. And the next one is impact and lineage analysis. So why do we need this? So people from the BO background, they really understand what is an impact and what is a lineage analysis that we do. So generally there will be scenarios in your project, they will be asking you to go once your development and everything is done, they will go and ask you to change the target structures or change the source structures. So you blindly cannot go and do that because you need to understand how these things function. Right, so if you blindly go and change a column or change the structure or change your target table, you never know like which other tables that target table is feeding to. Or if you have to enhance or change the source structure, you have to check the impact on your target tables. So this process is done with the help of impact and lineage analysis. Analyze the end-to-end impact and lineage of data services tables and columns. And also, not only just data services, you can look at the business objects, enterprise objects such as universe, business views, and reports. So this more implies to the report. So let us say somebody wants you to change the report. So you should check like what are the subsequent flows till your database table you need to go and check. So here too you need to go and select your repository by clicking on settings and select your repository. Then refresh data usage, you can set the refresh here, right? And close this. And once you see this one, you'll see the data stores, expand the data store. And this is on a table level for us. Like if you click on the drop down, you can say table or columns, universe, classes, business views, elements, and reports. So for data services, it is tables and columns. So it will show you the data stores. So click on the data store and you'll see the table. So if you select the customers table, right, overview, it will give you the table name as customer, from which data store you are getting, type of the object, table, and the table type or the database owner. Then if you click on the impact, it will give you a graphical representation which says that how this table, if you change this, what are the subsequent flows that get impacted. One second, guys. So it should actually show you the impact with a graphical representation giving the lines and what are the tables that you are using in this one. Let me check this table. I think some patch problem. Generally, it will give you a graphical representation saying that this is the table. So mapping tree, this table is not used as a target. Mapping tree can be seen only on those tables which are used as target. For example, if you open the target data store and click on the order salt table. So this will have a mapping tree because order salt is our target table. So it will tell you on which data flow, which is the target column and how is it fed from which source column. Then you can click on the lineage. So target tables, we do the lineage. So it will give you a graphical representation from which source tables it is fed. And then if you click on the impact, it will tell you. It's not displaying anything here, but it should display. So check on your systems or check on your project systems. It will display the graphical representation. I am not pretty sure why it is not displaying. Maybe some patch problems. So looking at that flows, so let us say they ask you to change one target table structure, so you can go to impact and lineage analysis, select that target table, and then see what are the different source tables are feeding data to that one, and based on that you can go and change that. If they ask you to change at a column level, you can go to the mapping tree, and there you can go and see if you change what are the source columns that you need to modify. Then looking at this analysis, you can tell the business that, okay, hey, if I do these changes, these are the subsequent objects that get impacted, right? And this is the lineage from source to target and target to source. So that is impact and lineage analysis. I'm really sorry because most of those things are not upgraded or they're not working, but try it on your systems. I think they should work. The next one is the operational dashboard. This is not a dashboard for data, but this is the dashboard that reflects on the stats of your server. So this dashboard on data services job execution statistics. So it is not anything on the data, but how many times your jobs are running, how many jobs ran, how many completed successfully, how many errored out. So all these things you can look from the operational dashboard from a performance point of view and from an administrator's point of view. So last 24 hours we did not execute any jobs, so it says this thing, so you just give it as last 30 days. And then all the local repositories, or you can go and specifically choose which repository you want to look at. So go and select your local repository, which is repo_LR7. Alright, so it has success, failure, and warnings. So success 44, 95% of the jobs, and then failures 3, and this is our local repository, and this is the graph, that representation. The upper one is the pie diagram, and this one is a bar graph, so you can just move your mouse over that and you can see the time period when it is executed, and then if it is a warning you can go and click on that to take you to this. Sorry, it's not interactive. It gives you this. In the previous version it will take you to those statistics. Now if you just scroll down and sorry, so this gives you the name of the repository, the name of the job, the execution time in seconds, and the status if it is successfully completed or failed. Now let us say this job ECCDB extraction, it ran for 67 seconds, right? So you want to do further analysis on that, you can double click on that and it will take you to the job and one time it ran 65 seconds and the other one it ran 67 seconds. You can double click on that further to drill down, right? Click on the data flow and it will take you to the graphs, like how much buffer used and rows processed. So it will give you somewhere around, right? So we processed around 16,925 records, and this is the time taken for that. And after that, the CPU usage. So this gives you a complete statistics on each and every job that gets executed. What are the statistics on that job? So you can go and check everything in this dashboards. So this dashboard, I'll remind you again or repeat this one. This is nothing related to your data and dashboards that you create on that, but this is totally related to your statistics on the server, right? So when you execute a job, what are the stats, like how much time each and every job is consuming and all these things. So you can look at those stats from this dashboard and understand how your overall landscape is performing, when you can go and select all repositories, or you can just select a particular repository, and you can give a start time and end time from where you want to monitor this, and you can export these stats into an Excel, I guess. Let me cross check, or a PDF. It should be one of this. Yeah, it is a CSV. Now if you are exported, you open this and this opens an Excel with the statistics of entire landscape. So you can go and look at it and sort by alright, so 1 second. So 330 seconds is some job that ran for 330 seconds. You can click on that and you can go and look at this one, right? And which repository it ran and what is the job. Then you can go into that job and drill down and see why it took 330 seconds, right? But still it did not succeed. It's an error job, and this will be the job run ID. So you can do a lot of investigation on the job, its performance and everything from the operational dashboards. And once you are done with this, you can click on home to take you back to the home page. And the last one, data quality reports, it is not working on the system, even on the other servers too. But whenever you work on any quality transformation, this quality transformation, it generates some stats on your data, right? So this is the group rank, this is the group score and all these things. So all these statistics which are calculated on the data will be captured in the form of a report. So that is what this data quality reports will do. So you can go and select the repositories or go to the settings and select the repository. And if you are using any data quality transformation in a real-time job, you can select that real-time job since we used it in the batch job. And this is the report button. You click on this and it will open a small pop-up window which will ask for more information, right? So on the job level, click on this. Right, once you key in the information and click on OK, so it should open a PDF format report which gives a detailed explanation like how each and every record is read, how it is transformed, and how it is estimated and calculated, and what are the statistics, what is the group rank, group count, group score for that, and what is the match criteria. So all this statistics on the data will be displayed in the report. So whenever you run some data quality transformations on your job, you can attach these reports along with the job when you send it to the data owner, so that data owner first looks at the repository. This will not take you through, but generally once you give the username and password, and it will take you to a PDF screen which will show you the output. This was working pretty good with Data Services 3x, which is 3.0 and 3.2, but they have done some changes and it's not working. So it just closes off, but it actually technically should take you to a PDF document which shows you a detailed report. So these are a few things that you really need to keep in mind when you are installing data services, like some small options, some small checkboxes it will ask, and without knowing the importance of that, or without following the proper installation guide, if you just ignore those things, so it will end up missing these kind of display options, certificate options, and activations. So we should be very careful and cautiously do the checkboxes. So anyways, it is not opening up, but it should take you to a report which will show you the statistics. So this is about Data Services Management Console, the wholesale administration tool to manage the repositories, to check the system performance, mainly used for administration, auto documentation, and operational dashboards. The rest of the things are not majorly used. But from a project perspective, administrators will look at the operational dashboard to see how the system is performing, if it is getting overloaded or not, and also to drill down to the performance bottlenecks. We can use the operational dashboards, auto documentation to view and analyze the code, and also to create the auto documentation administration to majorly handle the landscapes and the entire landscapes activities. So some of the options from the administrator are left, which are related to XML data and services. We'll look at them in the next topic, where we will deal with real-time jobs and manipulating the XML data. That will be our next topic. So any questions on Data Services Management Console? Right. Alright, so once you go through this recording, probably if you have any questions, you can get back to me on that. The next topic that we'll be looking at is Central Management Console. So that is again an administration tool for the entire landscape, both business objects, enterprise, and data services. So what we will do is we will look at the portion that is required for data services, because that administration itself is an ocean. So I think you remember the navigation. It is Start, All Programs, Business Objects, SAP Business Intelligence, Platform 4, and Central Management Console. Now once you, I think I clicked on the Launchpad. The option was deleted, so I went back to the history to get it. Right, once you go to your central management console homepage, so you'll see data services here, and from the drop down, this is sorted in alphabetical order. You can see the data services here, or from this menu bar, you can just scroll down and you can look at this icon, which is data services icon represented here. So you can click on it, and this is where we go and register our central management console, central repositories, local repositories, and profiler repositories. Right. So we have seen this activity that we do here in the data services tab. This is where we go and register our repositories. So once your repositories are registered, right, you can go and work on that. So apart from that, there is another option that we generally create here is users and groups. So once you go to the users and groups, probably will not have an authorization on this one to create and maintain the users, but this is the option to create the user, and this is to create a group and give some privileges to the group, right? So click on the group list and you will see the system provided group list. Generally, there is no need for you to go and create your own groups. So data services, designer, user. So if you just create a member and put him in that group, so you'll have all these authorizations related to this group. So he will be a part of administrators, users, and members of which group. You can add groups here. You can make him join different groups if you want to give him different privileges, customization, and account management. Right, so where to maintain his passwords and save those changes. So this is where you can go and search for the users as well. In the user list, if you go to the user list and you want to do a quick search, you can search for the user. So there are two users on the system. One is Rakesh and the second one is Rakesh I. So you can, this is where you can go and create users and maintain those groups. Alright, so back to the home page on Central Management Console. So define access levels is one more thing. So if you click on that, then you can go and create full access. So if you give this access, you can create some test access levels, you can create some so basically on any project you can go and utilize the default access levels like full access, read access, and no access that system is provided that comes along with the system. But if you want to create your own, you can go and create your new access levels and gives a specific access to that one and give it on that one. And also you'll have something like authorizations. So enterprise authentication, LDAP authentication, Oracle EBS, JD Edwards, SAP authentication. So this is where you go and set what are the different types of authentication and how the user. So when you log into the data services designer, you select the enterprise authentication. So you need to understand from where you are getting that. So this is where we will get that from, the authentications. And under the manage, if you click on the applications, it will show you all the applications of data services or the entire box. So it will show you the entire box applications. So let us say if I want a particular user to have a restricted access on a particular tool, so this is where I can go and say information steward application, user security, then go to select a particular user and view security, check his existing security levels, and I can remove the full control, do the changes, grant privileges, right, assign rights or no filters, grant rights, hot name. So I can just add and kill the privileges from this one. I'm not going deep into that because that is one way it will be good, but it will be another way, it will be a disaster as well. So when you are in a project, when you are in a right role, you can go and investigate on that one. Right, so that is authorizations. You can update the licenses here, and what else we will get? Yeah, so those are the things related to your data services from the central management console. We majorly use this option to register our repositories, and in some projects generally we will not restrict any application level access, but just in case you don't want the developers to log into the data services management console or central management console, the way it is restricted for me now, I am not able to see the central management console right in the platform 4. So this is where it will be restricted. Right, so that is just an FYI, guys. Do not go and do any investigation on the system, because that eventually probably you might lose a complete access to the system, or you might crash the entire system as well. So do not do any changes on that. There is a question from Adil: what information is authenticated and updated for given user ID if LDAP is used? See, generally we will go, or is it only user ID or password or more? So that is again a separate topic, Adil. So I don't remember the exact definitions, but generally we go by two different authentications. One is your enterprise authentication, which allows you to log into your ID to log in with the to the entire business object box, which is like business objects, enterprise, and data services. And the second one is Windows authentication, which will select your Windows username and password, and with the same password, like you log into the SQL Server Management Console, you select Windows authentication or SQL authentication. The same way, it will also take the Windows username and password and log you in if your Windows authentication is created. Or the third one is SAP authentication. So if you are trying to integrate this on an SAP landscape and you want to extend the existing SAP users, so you can call their authentications into this system and you can create a single sign-on. So that is altogether a separate subject and topic. Alright, so this is about the central management console. So any questions on central management console and data services management console? So these two are majorly the administration tools. So at least like data services management console, a portion of it developers will use, but central management console is a core administration tool. So only the admin people gets to work on that one. So any questions, guys, on central management console and data services management console? Alright, so if you don't have any questions, we'll proceed to the next topic, which is real-time jobs and manipulating the XML data. So first we'll look at manipulating the XML data, which means how do you handle the XML data. When I say manipulate, so if you have XML data nested structures in your source or in your target, so how do you handle them? So there are a few scenarios given by SAP, which we'll look into, and those will definitely help us understand how this XML data works and how do you really handle this XML data in different structures. Manipulating the XML data. Okay, so how are the target data used by customers in general and in regards to the business objects, web reports or HANA data modeling? Target data used by the customers. Okay, now, so this is a question from Adil. It says like, how are the target data that is created by data services used by the customers in regards to the business objects reports are HANA data models? So when we load the data into the target tables, right, so they can be your HANA tables as well or some other database tables. So when you load the data into those database, let us talk about the reporting aspect now. So web reports. So once you load the data into those tables and you go and create a universe on top of them, which is a semantic layer, and on top of that universe you'll go and build your, like typically when you create a universe you'll go and create your connections, data foundations, business views, and on top of that you'll create the universe, and on the universe you'll again segregate the data into classes and objects, and once you do that you will use that universe as a source for your web reports, and you will go and create your web reports. Now once you run your BODS jobs to load the base tables, so these tables will be refreshed with data, and once the data is refreshed you can go and refresh your reports to look at the new data. Since data services runs pretty fast and it validates the data pretty fast, or loads the data or refreshes the data on the target table pretty fast, so your response time or if you are scheduling your web reports, you can schedule them quite frequently to display the multiple latest set of information on your target reports. So that is on terms of a web report perspective. Right. Second one, on the HANA data models, we will see that topic a little later because we have a separate session for this introduction to HANA and how do we load the data into SAP HANA, and what is this loading called as, and when we are talking about in HANA terminology it is called as provisioning. So what are the different type of provisioning mechanisms that are there, and how do we load the data into SAP HANA? We will look at that here. But to answer your question, Adil, when we are loading the data into SAP HANA tables using BODS, right? So on top of those models or like on top of those tables, you can go and create your information models, right? What you call as data models or information models in HANA, and you can create a combination of, or like you can create those attribute views, analytical views, and calculation views, and you can do a lot more calculation on top of them, and refresh your reports on top of those information models. So the typical advantage of having data services in the back end to populate the tables is, like, generally if you look at the web reports or information models on HANA, so you generally do some calculations at that layer, like at the reporting layer on a webby or universe, you create some calculated key figures, or at SAP HANA information models, you will create some calculated key figures and do some new output columns and populate some data to that using some rules. So you can bypass all those things, right? Using data services, you can bypass all those things, and when you are creating the base database table itself, right, you do this additional calculations using data services and load the data into the table. Now, if you remove those calculations from the web report or from your data models, right, that improves your performance, right? So let us say if you are refreshing it and it is taking 5 seconds because it has some calculations on it, but now data services will already do the calculation and it will load the data into the base table itself. Now it is not trying to do any calculation but directly do a one-on-one read from the base table. It can be a report or it can be an information model. So that improves the performance of your reports or your information models. So remember guys, when you are working on any project, on the front end layer, on the top layer, which can be your information models, reporting, or anything else, just make sure that it will be pretty light, because when you refresh that, and if it has a lot more calculations in it, so it will take some time to display the output. So that is generally not expected, right? When the final layer should be pretty light, so that everything is calculated in the back end, available, and just once you click a refresh, in few seconds you should show the output to the end reports or to the end users. Any more questions?
Rakesh, there is one more option, business. Data service designer. In tools option, business object universes. There is option, right?
Okay.
Create or update. There is two options, right? What are those?
No, I haven't used those options anywhere, Chandra, to tell you frankly.
I tried to explore those options, but I'm not able to get.
Yeah, because even in these years, I haven't seen those options. I'm just assuming it will be on a table level and it's grayed out. I'm not sure about it. Even I have to look into that.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Alright, so any more questions, guys, on anything else?
Rakesh, I have a question. First, CDC capture to HANA is there a replication server is the only server, only choice? Is there any other method?
Change data capture and replication server. These two are two different things, because replication server is a concept that works on Sybase ASC database, and if you look at the PAM, so they mention that this is specific for the Sybase databases, right? So, but they can also work on the Oracle databases too, but they're not this thing. So they capture the replication server. The main intention of having a replication server in place is they will capture your delta records and put that in the target table. So instead of doing a full load, it just captures the delta on the timestamp or whatever the logic that is set, and it will update your target tables or your staging tables with the delta records. So from where you can read the entire data into your jobs. Sorry, Chandra, I got lost. Can you repeat your question?
For data in HANA database, like a MS SQL server, they have own native CDC capture drivers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that in HANA, do we have in native CDC capture data drives, or only replication server is the only technique?
No, I'm not sure, Chandra. I had to look into that one too.
Because in SAP Pressbooks I found this thing like target based CDC capture, source based CDC capture, right?
Yeah. So see, it depends on on subject to subject or from author to author. Some people call it as type 1, type 2, type 3, and some people call it as no history, immediate history, and full history, and some authors they call it as like source based CDC, target based CDC. So we have dealt with scenarios, because I really get confused between these terms. But if you look into the change data capture options that we have done, we have dealt with scenarios where there is a change in the source data, where there is a change in the target data, where we are trying to maintain no history, maintain full history, or maintain immediate history. So these options are dealt especially with the help of the platform transformation.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. We have CDC capture and again we have, SED types, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So which one we use in data services? I'm not sure.
Hmm. So there is a question from Adilya mentioned that we can remove the password requirement for central repository when logging into designer. So Adil, can you be more specific? So from designer, when we go to the central repository, so if I activate this one, it will ask for a password. You mean this one? Okay. So in the authorizations, right? So it is not even in the authorization. It is like, let me go back to that one. Oops. Right. So in this one, in the group list, right, if you create any specific group, let us say administrators, you go to the user security on that one and select that one and you go and say assign security. Right. So in the advanced tab, so generally it says the general, so you go and add in rights, and this is where you inherit from the parent group. So if the parent group says that it has a username and password, so it will automatically read from here and it will not ask you for a specific password.
Yes.
Yeah, Chandra?
What are these inherited from parent groups? Where those are exist? Where they will exist? Parent groups.
So see, this is on an entire landscape level. So when you are setting up a business objects and data services environment for the customers, and you are doing uh, a initial project business blueprint phase, where you go and create or plan like these many people are required for business objects, administrations, data services designer. So you create the basic groups, or you create some subgroups specific for your project. So now these groups, like you'll say dev admin, QA admin, and prod admin, but on the system level you'll have administrators, right? So you can inherit the properties from the parent group. So when you create this group, make it as a child of the administrators group, and then you inherit the properties from that group.
What I mean is where we will create parent
That's
groups.
see, this is creating the users and groups. It's like when you
Not
go to the user
okay.
group, you can go and create them here, create a group and create a user, and then assign them to the existing parent groups.
Okay.
Alright, so you select a group, you can say join group, and add as a member to another group. This is where you maintain that.
Okay, Rakesh.
Yeah. So any more questions, guys? Alright, then we'll call it a day. In tomorrow's session, we will start dealing with XML data. So we have these sample files given by SAP, and as we start the session, I'll share this XML dump with you guys so that you can actually practice on the same scenarios, because you can create a flat file, you can create a database table by writing some script, and you can populate some records into that and utilize that. But creating an XML file and maintaining the XML data is a bit difficult as far as I understand, because generally you will not have these dumps, but uh, this is, yeah. So I'll just send you, or send the training coordinators, the zip files, this one, which handles this folder, and this will have the source flat files and target flat files, and also 2 PDF documents which talks about how do you handle the XML data. And this is the only document that I found on the internet when I started learning about how to handle XML data using data services, right? So that actually helped me out to understand how these IDOCs work, and how do you trigger or maintain the IDOC structures using data services. So that is this is a foundation for us to understand the nested structures. And once you understand the nested structures and how you handle that, it is like straightforward. If it is an XML or if it is a data IDOC structures, it really doesn't matter, but you know how to handle them. So we'll see multiple scenarios on how to handle XML data, and after XML data we will see how do we create a real-time job, and what is exactly meant by a real-time job, how do you run a real-time job, how do you expose a real-time job, and all those things. So once we do complete this XML manipulation and real-time jobs, then we will have another 2 sessions to complete the training, right? Probably we are in the last 3 sessions where we will be talking about real-time, and then a quick introduction to HANA and show how to load the data into SAP HANA using data services. It's nothing but how do you create a HANA data store. So that is the main thing that we need to understand in this session on SAP HANA. So how do you do a data provisioning into SAP HANA using data services? And once it is done, then we'll spend some time on the project orientation. We will see how do we load. So probably tomorrow I'll complete this topic, and this takes some 15 minutes, a quick introduction to HANA and data provisioning into SAP HANA. And once this is done, we'll go and log into SAP HANA and look at the data that we have loaded. And once that is done, then we will spend some half an hour on the project orientation, like a history, or like it's just like a story, like how it starts with the sales call, and what are the next steps in the project, and how it goes till the hypercare, right? Go lives, hypercares, and all those things. We'll see that flow. We'll just listen to the theory, like most of you guys will be exposed to it, but the reason why I'm insisting on this one is this is a data migration project. This is not a software development project where we will follow some agile methodologies or SDLCs, right? This is a data migration project, and it has its own methodology and it has its own iterations. So you need to keep in mind, as a leads or as project managers or as architects or principal consultants, when we are especially doing a project planning, you need to keep in mind what are the prerequisites, what has to be done for you to get into this phase of the project. So when you have to do the project landscape planning, when you have to do the team planning, what is a ramp up and ramp down model. So when you need all these things, probably all these things talk about the project management stuff, but you need to have an idea to suggest or to go and tell your customer like this is what I am expecting at this stage, and or at least as a developer you will know like what needs to be done for you to start your work. So we'll talk about different roles played by managers, architects, lead administrators, developers, code promotion guys, testers. We'll talk about the entire flow right from the sales call till the hypercare and the project orientation. And once that is done, I'll just walk you through one of the projects which will give you a clear picture like how it works on the data migration. Right? So with that, we'll be closing the training. So just giving you a heads up, like we have another 3 days to close this training. Yeah, we will have classes, Adil. So we will not have any breaks. So just to make sure that we will complete the training. So just before closing, I don't want to have any stops in the schedule. So we will have regular sessions. Alright guys, so thanks for joining today's class. Have a good time, good day and good night. See you tomorrow in tomorrow's session. Till then, take care and bye.
Thank you very much.